All right, let's take a look at a lot of dream symbols here. All right, I'm gonna give you some examples of dream symbols. And if you look over on the channel during the shorts, I kind of break each one of these up. But let's look at some of these together and where you may, or how you may see them in a dream. I'm gonna kind of look past the camera to my notes here. So if you see me look off a little bit, that's what that is. So let's just go through some common dream symbols. And again, if you've heard any of my videos, you know context is key. Context is key. Let's kind of go in where I left off on one of the shorts. A tunnel or a hallway. All right. Typically, you would come across a tunnel or a hallway if it was, the meaning is typically a transition. But you'll see some people like, hey, I got into a car, I was driving down the street, and then I drove into a tunnel. And then in the tunnel, you know, the radio guy said this or something. That tunnel is usually a transition. All right. So that transition from one thing to the other in the dream, again, it's all context. So, you know, where are you coming from? Where are you headed? And what happens in between. So tunnel, hallway, transition. You know, if you left the living room, I walked down the hallway and then I opened up my bedroom and it was filled with flowers. Okay, so the hallway is a transition time. So let's move on to, while we're at it, let's just talk about cars. You know, a car is typically a ministry or vocation. So that could be what you're kind of, if you're walking in if you're walking in your anointing, you know, it could also be work related. A lot of times you'll say, you know, somebody will send in and say, hey, I was driving a white pickup truck and I typically drive a blue SUV or sedan in the real world, but in my dream world here, I was driving a white truck. So that could typically be something more about a truck. Could be something that you have to carry. We also want to look at colors in the dream. Was it a white truck, black truck, blue truck, green truck? Dream symbols, colors, and numbers are some of the three biggest takeaways you can from your dream. All right, but again, a vehicle is your ministry or your vocation. Let's look at a basement. So many dreams are about people in their house. Hey, I had a dream I was in my house, or I was in my house but when I was a kid, or I had a dream about my neighbor's house, and you know, a lot of times we'll dream about I was in my house and there was a basement, and I walked down into the basement, and a lot of times the basement those are things not seen, basic issues, foundational issues. A lot of times in people's dreams, anything about their house is really about their personal life. There's been some dreams where it's real, like the house represents different parts of the body. But when we look at a basement's the kind of things not seen. You don't see a basement from outside the house. All right. You know, there's been dreams come in and say, hey, I was in the basement of my house, but my house in real life doesn't have a basement. But in my dream, I was in my house. I know I was in my house, but I also had a basement. So that's usually a really good indicator that you are looking at foundational issues. Let's see what's underground. Let's see what's not seen, or you know, is a struggle to kind of see quickly from the outside. All right, looking up at the notes again. While we're talking about house, let's talk about the attic. All right, the attic is usually where you store stuff, you keep stuff. In a dream, it typically represents the history. So it could be family history, could be your history from your past. But you could say, hey, I was in my dream, I was eating a sandwich in the kitchen, I walked upstairs, and then I actually went and got into the attic and I found a purple dress. All right, so when you get into the attic, you know, you kind of, that dream interpretation then morphs into this is something about your past or your history. All right, so then that purple dress has a meaning. So, but we see where we go into. So we go into the attic, so it's got something to do about history, your past, something like that. Okay. Let's go with horse. A lot of people may, you know, surprisingly, amount of people that dream about I was riding a horse, or I was walking a horse, or a horse came across my path. Again, a horse is just with power and authority. Okay. Again, context. But the horse is power and authority. And then let's morph that to a tree. Sometimes people will dream about, hey, I had a huge oak tree in the front of my house, or I had an orchard of trees, but they were all dying. So a lot of that is about leadership and, about leadership and a specific leader. This could have been, hey, there was a tree in front of my church where someone was swinging, depending on who was on a tire swing in front, but then the tree starts to break down. So again, context is everything, which is why I say don't put all your eggs into one dream dictionary basket, because these symbols have meaning from the Bible, but context and how they're read is how they should be put together. For example, a knife. We talk about a knife. Well, a knife has positive and negative meanings, just like colors do. A knife could be a skill or discernment, but then a negative one's kind of maybe gossip or the tongue. The Bible talks about, that you have the power of life and death in the tongue and what you say, and your words matter. So that has real big context implications that you need to know that's in your dream. All right, let's do one more here. Just looking at my list, I want to pick one that a lot of people have. Snakes, long tails, lies. Again, context, snakes aren't always bad, but typically majority of people are afraid of snakes. And then, snakes in the Bible, you had some good, you had some bad, but usually they have long tails, and they're deceiving. And then we'll say, let's go with a bed. Some people, we'll end with this one, a bed. Some people are like, hey, I was falling asleep in my bed in my dream, or I was sitting at the end of my bed talking to somebody, or I was trying to finish a business deal, but I was in bed writing it, or something like that. So a bed is typically intimacy or rest, somewhere you're close, or something that you might, now you've made your bed, you need to lay in it, or hey, let's just put this thing to bed, or let's just rest on the seat. Let's maybe just wait to see how something turns out, and let's just rest on the situation. Again, and people have dreams too. Hey, I was sleeping with somebody in my bed that wasn't my spouse or wasn't my significant other. What did that mean? I'm not trying to cheat on us. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with you wanting to cheat or anything else, but it could have something that has your attention. Like, another, something that you may have found attractive that caught your eye. It's not necessarily that people are cheating, but in the dream, it's, hey, you may be intimate with this situation, or, you may be getting wrapped up in this situation that maybe you do or don't need to. All right. Again, leave some comments below, like, subscribe, let me know. We can start doing live dream interpretations.